Hello and welcome to another edition of Coffee Break. My name's Steve Barrett. I'm the editorial director of PR Week. Delighted to join you for another show with Jason Alderman, who is the CCO of FAST and is joining us from San Francisco. How are you doing, Jason?
Steve, great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your setup. You've had a spell in the office, I believe, but you've had to shut that back down again. How has lockdown been for you? And tell us a little bit about FAST, just to give us the potted elevator sell for what you're up to. You're in the sort of e-commerce login and checkout space, which I imagine is pretty busy at the moment.
You're absolutely right in all counts. I'll start with FAST. So FAST is your one-click online checkout nirvana. It allows you to buy in one click across the internet. You don't have to be on one particular store. You don't have to use a particular browser. You don't have to have a particular setup with a certain kind of payment card. It will work across all of those. It removes passwords completely, allows you to buy truly in one click. And for those of you who have ever been frustrated about having to re-enter information over and over again, or a browser autofill settings that weren't working, this solves that. And you're absolutely right, Steve. It's been a busy time. You know, this was one-click checkout was needed long before COVID hit, when online buying was not a necessity, but something a lot of people did. But it's become a necessity now. Between all the people who can't go out because of health reasons, because of supply chain problems, because of how they're working, buying online is truly a necessity now. And so being able to access the purchases you want to make with one click has really become important. And so FAST has stepped up to the challenge that faces all of us. We've grown rapidly since COVID. More than 2/3 of the company have been hired since COVID. We've never met face to face. But we've launched our one-click checkout product, and we're planning to take over the internet.
Yeah, so is it too simplistic to say, obviously Amazon has a one-click functionality. Is it too simplistic to say that this allows you to bring that one-click functionality that's so popular on Amazon to your e-commerce setup, or am I missing the point here?
I think that's well said. Think about it. Think of all the places you go that are not Amazon. Think of all the small businesses that have had to open near you that are now trying to sell online that aren't Amazon, that you want to buy from. FAST allows you to have that sort of one-click checkout where it remembers all of your payment cards, wherever you'd like to have things sent. You don't even have to log in with a password. You know, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I go on Amazon on my phone, I have to re-log in. FAST will remember you no matter what store you're on, no matter what device you're on for that one click. So it provides the ease, but I would say does it even better.
The bane of my life and lots of people's life is refilling those forms, trying to get through it. You get 90% through it, and then something screws up, and you have to start again. And it's not just e-commerce; it's anything, whether it's logging into your doctor or any of those online forms. So yeah, I certainly see the potential in that. It's interesting you say that 2/3 of your people have come on board since pandemic, and you haven't even met them, which is. We've got 3 or 4 people I've never met, but I feel I know them really well via Zoom and Google, etc. Tell us about your lockdown experience. You're in a sort of startup environment. A lot of the energy will come from that being together in a workspace. So how have you coped and managed to replicate that in a virtual environment?
You're right. The startup environment is sort of everybody's in it together. You know, you're all in a small boat and you're rowing fast and furious in the right direction. So it was hard for us at first. I think it was really a disappointment when we had to shut down our office in San Francisco initially. We weren't hiring remotely at the time in March. Everybody was, for the most part, based in the San Francisco office. We were all in the office every day. It built for a really tight team. We had a lot of camaraderie, and it made for a lot of efficiencies. But we didn't have a choice. You know, the city of San Francisco and the state of California, where FAST is based, very wisely sent everybody home. And we quickly realized we could operate as a company much more efficiently than we thought. And it opened up a whole avenue of talent that we had been excluding ourselves from before. You know, as a startup, particularly in the tech space, you're always hungry for talent. The greatest limitation that you face often is your ability to hire really, really bright people. And because we were limiting ourselves to people who were in the San Francisco Bay Area, we were shutting off the other 95% of the planet. And because we all had to work remotely, it didn't matter if you were based in Oakland or, you know, Yokohama. You could now work just as easily from FAST. And that got us a terrific group of people that we would never have been able to work with before. And I found that there is the camaraderie that I thought we would miss is actually just as strong as it ever was. And even though we haven't met people face to face, we still spend a lot of time together on Zoom, a lot of time together on Slack, a lot of goofy comments in the Zoom chats. And there is still a little bit of that small boat feeling, even though we're virtually spread out in our own small boats and disparate oceans. It still feels like it's sort of fast against the universe. It still feels like we are a team that is on a mission and we won't stop until we get it accomplished. And even if we're not sitting physically together, we all feel that. And that's been very special. So that part of it has been a pleasant surprise. But that said, Steve, I miss the office. The city and state had just shut down offices, non-essential offices again, made all the sense in the world. We really supported the decision because of the rising caseload. But I was surprisingly sad. Being in the office yesterday and helping shut things down, I didn't expect myself to be as sad as I was.
Yeah, it's good to get out, isn't it? After 9 months, of going a bit stir crazy, but we've got to do the right things. Cases are as high as they've ever been, and certainly we know this in New York because we had it early, so we certainly don't want to go back to those days. Do you think? I mean, you've got an office sitting empty there that you're paying for. Will you persist with that, or will everyone, look at? Obviously, everyone's looking at leases and future working environments. And if you have got staffers all over the world, then, they can't come in the office anyway. So what's your approach to that going to be?
We're optimistic. We're an optimistic company. We're optimistic that passwords won't be needed. And we're optimistic that offices will be relevant in the future, that the pandemic will be under control enough in 2021 where it makes sense to have offices for those who want it. And our two co-founders, Dom Holland and Allison Barr Allen, created a program earlier this year called Fast Flex, which basically means that employees can work from wherever they want, whenever they want, however they want. So if you were based in San Francisco and all of a sudden, you wanted to move to Cape Town, you can move to Cape Town. If you were based in Cape Town, but now you want to work out of Reykjavik for the next 3 months, you work out of Reykjavik for the next 3 months. If when the office reopens, you want to move from Reykjavik back to the Bay Area and be in the office every single day, you're welcome to do that. If you're like me, you live across the bay from San Francisco and you want to come in once the office is reopened 2 or 3 times a week, you can do that too. Complete flexibility for those who want to have access to an office and the camaraderie and the resources it brings and the change of pace. And frankly, for my wife, so that I get out of her hair, that's a really great resource. And I've been thinking a lot about this, Steve, because, it used to be the big perk, especially in PR was, oh, well, you get Fridays off in the summer, or, oh, you can work from home 1 day a week. That was considered a big innovation. And that was good flexibility. I think in the future, the flexibility that people are going to be craving is the ability to go in an office if they want it, to have access to an office. For companies that go all virtual, that's great. But if there's not an office for them to go into, I think for some segment of the working population, that's actually a detriment. If you're forced to work remotely 24/7, that's very different than having the option of going into an office if you want. And I think smart employers in the future will have the option where in big hubs where they have a critical mass of employees working, the option to go into an office.
I agree.
Yeah. I think that will be crucial. I think that will be a decision maker for a lot of employees who will say, oh, I can't work from an office. There is no office by me here in Chicago. I'm going to take the offer from the company that still has an open office.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be a new norm, and people have proved that they can work effectively from home. That was always the fear, wasn't it? That people would just not do the graft, and we're certainly doing the graft. So, yeah, I agree. It's going to be an interesting new environment perspective when we eventually do come out of it. Tell us a bit about media relations in the Bay Area, in the tech sector, and when you're a startup, Series A funding in March, I think it was. Tell us how that's changed. It feels like the media environment's changed a bit on the West Coast. There was a golden era, I suppose, of a lot of TechCrunch and all these outlets covering tech. How's it changed, and how have you approached that in your role?
You're right. But I think the tech media has matured. I think we were in this awful cycle of an immature industry that was both writing love letters every day to the new tech company, and then at the same time looking for opportunities the following day to write hate mail to the same company. It was this, I would say, this very immature cycle of building companies up and then looking for their flaws. And companies, like every other entity that reporters cover, people, governments, they're much more nuanced. Companies aren't all brilliant and solving everything and perfect, nor are they flawed and evil. And I think the tech media is catching up to that and realizing that that tech companies, in fact, can be both. They can be really disruptive and coming up with incredible new products, and there can be problematic behavior, and there can be things that need to be looked into and truly investigated. So going from the extremes of flattering only coverage versus gleeful teardowns, I think a lot of tech media are finding that there's wisdom in going in between. That said, I think that the tech media here, with the maturity that they've attained, has gotten better and smarter. And while people aren't throwing money, startups aren't throwing money, or investors aren't throwing money at media startups in the same way they used to, I feel like we've got a really good cohort of reporters who cover tech, whether they're in legacy outlets or whether they're sort of tech-only outlets. I'm really impressed. I think we have a really good group of reporters who are covering technology in a really intelligent way, and so I think that's been great.
Where's the dream placement for your founders? Are they still looking to get in the Journal, the Times, or that's never bad coverage, is it? Well, unless
never bad coverage. Sure, of course not. And I think people who write the obituaries for those legacy outlets are being foolish. So that said, I'd say right now our media relations goals are sort of twofold. We really want to get in front of sellers, online merchants who are selling. We want them to understand our value proposition of fast checkout and why they should install fast checkout on their sites. So we want to get in front of them. So some of that is trade media. Some of that is just mainstream media, because of course people who run online stores consume mainstream media. The other big piece is hiring. We're still very focused on hiring. And while we are hiring around the world, the Bay Area still does have an exceptionally rich pool of tech talent to plumb. And so one of the things that I found to be really helpful, that I think practitioners, especially at companies with national or global scopes, ignore, is a local media. The Bay Area has a robust local media scene. And if you can make things available for them, if you can serve them up good coverage in the way most tech companies don't, you have to go beyond just putting things out in a press release or a blog post. If you can serve up good visuals and think about it and hold availabilities with nice visuals, you can get local media coverage. And that local media coverage, we find, really does help drive hiring. It reinforces what they're reading on TechCrunch. Their spouses see it, when they're preparing dinner, and it helps reinforce why they want to come to Fast. It creates a really nice media symphony and stereo of why you want to join Fast. So those have been our two priorities.
And just to finish up, I think you've been using Twitter quite interesting ways as well, both on the hiring front and the brand building front.
We are absolutely right. Twitter has in some ways has been our third co-founder, along with Dom and Allison. Twitter has really been there from the very beginning. It's how Dom, the man who created Fast, met Allison. It's how I learned about Fast and reached out and joined the company. It's really been such a big part of who we are as a company in terms of reaching out, and it's been a great way in this time of tumult to connect with potential investors, potential employees, sellers, and buyers alike. And we've built a really terrific social media team. We have a guy named Matt Kobach, who is an absolute all-star in social media. So he took what was already, frankly, an A game of social media and took it into the stratosphere. And so we really have been able to recruit through all of our constituencies through Twitter in a way that I think it puts us apart, and it's been nice. It's a much more authentic way of reaching people. We get employees who come in who are really engaged in sort of pre-approved, and we've developed a real cohort of fans who are creating content for us, who are advocating for us, who are going and talking to online sellers who have yet to install Fast Checkout and asking them on our behalf to install Fast Checkout. The community that's been created it really amazes me, and we couldn't do that without Twitter.
That's great. It's the best advocacy possible, isn't it? So yeah, but continued good fortune with that, Jason. Great to chat to you and find out about FAST, and we look forward to tracking your progress.
A real pleasure, Steve. And let me put a plug in. I'm a big fan. I read everything that Diana puts out. You guys do terrific work. You really help the industry, I think, stay informed and stay honest. So I'm grateful for all the work that you guys do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's Diana Bradley, our consumer correspondent, and great PR Week Diana on Twitter. So she does a great job for us. All right, take care. And good luck, Jason.
Thanks, Steve.